It has begun. At this moment, a new cauldron is forming at the front. The occupiers scattered like husks. Storm Shadow destroyed a top-secret Russian base. After this, Putin's mercenaries received a new order. Kostiantynivka is turning into a frying pan. The battles have never been like this before. What does the standoff of the century look like? All this in our episode Hellpoint. A new wave of threat in Pokrovsk region. The Russians are going all in. And these are no longer just attacks, this is real brutality. The hellish assaults have taken on a new form. Right now, gunfights are raging there. The occupiers are pushing toward the logistics, snarling and firing blindly. But every time they get slapped down by our forces. Despite the intense pressure, Ukrainian defenders are holding their ground and not letting Putin's army advance any further. How are they managing to hold the line? Find out in this report.
Yeah, buddy. Quick. There's a noticeable noise coming from it.
How long have you been serving as a mortar operator?
2 years.
And you've never, ever encountered any gunfights before?
No, I've never encountered gunfights before.
Is this your first time?
Yes.
The assistant gunner with the call sign Blondin has just returned from treatment. They suffered a concussion and lost several comrades. The Russians hit their position with tube artillery. Along with that, and various types of attack drones. Here, in the Pokrovsk direction, the mortar crews have encountered a new threat for the first time.
We often have to engage in firefights. Because the enemy rides up on mopeds, they come right up to the mortar positions. Yeah, they circle around very quickly, darting across fields and open areas, and then they come right up to us. They open fire, yes, and dismount from their vehicles. They can just stop by and hide somewhere in the village, and then, well, after dinner, walk around the positions at night.
Opposite direction.
Did you hear a sound?
No, they handed it over to us from this headquarters.
And how many of them are there on this?
Well, only one of them reached us.
What was he with?
Just an assault rifle, 4 magazines, body armor, and a motorcycle. Nothing else.
So a motorcycle with a Russian on it with an assault rifle drives up to you, and what, he starts shooting at you?
They just hide there, train, run into the green, then simply hide our positions.
And how frequent are these breakthroughs?
Well, in the month that I've been here, well, a little more, yes, that I've been in this direction, it's happened twice.
And is it always in such small groups?
Just 2 or 4 people.
A large number of guided aerial bombs, artillery, mortars, and sometimes even tanks. In the Pokrovsk direction, for several months in a row now, there have been the highest number of Russian attacks per day. But the most insidious threat is drones. The Russians are trying to cut off logistics, the delivery of ammunition, and simply not allow anyone to reach the positions.
The scariest thing probably is getting in and out of the position, because FPV drones are waiting on the approaches. And that's probably the most problematic part.
You can help protect those who defend us and hold the approaches to Dnipropetrovsk in the Pokrovsk direction by scanning the QR code. This is a fundraiser for electronic warfare equipment to fight against Russian drones.
That's it.
Maria Malevska, Alexander Brinza, IH or Serebrian, Vikna STB, United News.
Storm Shadow missiles struck the occupiers hard, wiping out high-value targets in Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea. Epic footage of the strikes has spread across the internet. Among those eliminated were top commanders who held up Putin's army. Now, problems have arisen. The soldiers are gripped by panic. The occupation authorities are losing faith in the almighty Russian Federation. More on this in the following report.
On the night of the 30th of June, it was loud in Donbass. Reports of at least 6 strikes came in within the first minutes from the temporarily occupied Donetsk and Yasinuvata.
Something's burning over there. Damn!
Local residents filmed the orange glow from their balconies, which in just a few minutes enveloped nearly half the city. Some people reported the locations of the impacts.
This is the central department store.
This video shows the aftermath of the local air defense in action. Apparently, they were shooting down the missiles right over their own rooftops. The people filming this clip turned out to be braver. They're recording not from balconies, but right at the scene, and sharing their impressions with their followers. Later, it became known that Storm Shadow missiles paid an uninvited visit to the former Institute of Non-Ferrous Metals. The building had long since ceased to be used for its original purpose. Instead, it housed the headquarters of the 8th Russian Occupation Army. Among that were many senior officers, including the commander of the army headquarters, Ruslan Horyachkin. Ukrainians also paid attention to the neighboring temporarily occupied Luhansk. There, the sky was cut by dozens of drones.
Well, damn, how is that possible? Do you think they accidentally shot down 4 drones there on purpose, Dad?
I don't know what happened there.
There's no way that many drones could have been shot down there by accident. Someone deliberately directed them there.
Whether it was intentional or accidental, this night will be remembered for a long time at the local oil depot. Another target for Ukrainian UAVs was hiding in temporarily occupied Crimea. In the last days of June, the main intelligence directorate neutralized several enemy helicopters and air defense systems at the Kirovsk airfield in the southeast of the peninsula. Later, it became known that as a result of the strike, Vice Admiral and commander of the occupying naval fleet Ildar Akhmetov was killed. This drone, like a dozen of its counterparts, traveled more than 1,000 kilometers. The final destination was the city of Izevsk, the capital of the Udmurt Republic in the Ural region. After all, there was a good reason to make the journey. The UAVs struck the Kupol plant, which is part of the enemy's defense conglomerate, Almaz-Antey. Until recently, this was the site where anti-aircraft missile systems were produced, including the Tor-Sam, as well as Harpy drones and radar systems. In the near future, the production line will have to be put on hold. Anna Basova, Podrobnosti, Inter-Television Channel, Marathon, United News.
Kostiantynivka is now the epicenter of the confrontation. The enemy is advancing from 3 sides, breathing down the necks of the Ukrainian armed forces and trying to spread out across the entire area. Our forces are working at full capacity. New threats are emerging right at this moment. The city is destroyed. The Russians have become brutal, firing indiscriminately. Our troops are holding out to the very end. They meet every assault with fire. How are the Ukrainian armed forces holding back the onslaught and what is left of the city? More on this in the report.
This is how people now move through Kostiantynivka back roads and at breakneck speed, even in places where just a few months ago shops and cafes were still open. The city of 70,000 lies in ruins from constant Russian artillery shelling and airstrikes.
It's actually very painful to watch and observe how, as the Russian forces relentlessly approach the city, life slowly but surely disappears from Kostiantynivka, a significant and deeply meaningful place that holds so many cherished memories and so much profound meaning for its inhabitants. As you can hear, the artillery is firing, cabs are hitting, and the liveliest place here in Kostiantynivka train station and the market next to it, as you can see, is already gone. It's been destroyed.
I bought a flashlight right here, probably in this store, but that store is gone too.
Trying to avoid open areas, the fighters of the 49th Battalion Carpathian Sich moved through places that, until recently, were considered a safe rear. The soldier with the call sign Foma looks in horror at what the small market has turned into. Returning from the positions, he would always stop here to have a coffee.
Everything is destroyed. There are no people. This is all that's left.
Well, this used to be such a crowded place.
Yeah, they used to sell cell phones here. You could get whatever you needed. Public transport used to run here. There was a big bus station.
This is how it is almost across the whole city. The soldiers mostly walk to their positions. In some places, the front line is only 4 or 5 kilometers away from Kostiantynivka. According to the deep state map, the Russians are now trying to capture the city of Ulishata. They are assaulting our defenses from 3 directions at once. Because of the relentless attacks by enemy strike drones, logistics are operating almost at their limit, which makes the already difficult work of the Ukrainian military even harder.
This one is truly ours.
And this is how the repair crew of the Carpathian Sich restores an armored Humvee that was recently hit by a Russian UAV. Every vehicle here is worth its weight in gold now, because only with such vehicles can you evacuate the wounded and deliver ammunition. And the Russians know this very well.
It's quite rare that we can actually pull it out from the very rear. These are my entry wounds. They've developed a new tactic. One FPV drone disables the vehicle and another flies in to finish it. They have a lot of FPV drones here.
Every time a vehicle heads toward the front line, it's a complex special operation. Volodymyr carefully prepares to evacuate his wounded comrades. He knows it's extremely dangerous, but he goes anyway. Not long ago, he worked at headquarters, but then he volunteered to become an evacuation vehicle driver.
Well, I just can't sit and watch while our guys are getting hit by drones or something else, or mortar fire, all of that. I told the commander, I want to at least contribute something, instead of just sitting here watching all this. He said, all right, I hear you, good. So I arrive, and when you're driving closer to the positions, your heart just bleeds. Just to come and pick them up. Because it's hard, really hard.
But when his comrades need help, Volodymyr spares neither himself nor his vehicle. The main thing is to quickly evacuate wounded comrades. No, into the car.
Come on, please, move. We really need to get going now, quickly and without delay.
Buddy, I'm glad that we're already...
I'm so happy to see you.
Just hang in there a little longer, just a bit.
Wounded, shell-shocked, and exhausted. These two soldiers made their way to the evacuation point on their own for 6 days. Even now, in relative safety, the guys still can't believe they managed to escape that hell.
There were 3 of us, but one of the 2 was killed. Then we were both wounded, so we couldn't go any further because there was no point. And we started to withdraw. Well, we almost made it to the positions, but we had to fall back. We went back. They kept targeting us. They already knew where we were. There were constant strikes. Then it happened again, and I got wounded in the leg a bit more.
By a strike, but we managed to get in.
And this deadly cycle of shelling and assaults near Kostiantynivka seems simply endless. The Russians don't care about ammunition or their own people. In this footage, it's what's called a reconnaissance in force, where 2 enemy soldiers move toward our positions, sacrificing their lives just to locate our firing points.
You saw them, they were moving through the area.
Combat readiness.
They're moving under the road, moving north. They're moving north, observing from under the road.
There they go. They're smoking. Now we hit with FPV drones. They've hidden somewhere. We can't find them yet. Well, stay on the load. We'll hit them with all available means.
We're standing by.
It's not that dangerous. It's not like we're afraid of them. The thing is, the funny part is, they'll get here. We'll kill them. We will. And as long as that drone is hovering at the spot where we are, more or less. Pulling back now. Oh, a shotgun. Come on. That's it. Good job, guys. Go on, take him out.
Do it.
The main thing is to kill the guy with the radio. If you take out the guy with the radio, you can still, get away.
Vadim worries about every one of his comrades. He himself started out as an ordinary infantryman, so he knows how tough it is on the front lines. Especially now when the Russians have a significant advantage in the number of drones.
To me, these people are heroes. They trust me. They believe in me. That I'll cover them, warn them, and communicate together with them. They'll go out, fire back, and I'll cover them. I'll coordinate with the brigade so that the artillery defense works. There needs to be some suppression so they don't get taken out. I have the prospect of stabilizing the front where we are, first and foremost, and only then think about what we'll do next.
Kostiantynivka is now essentially the gateway to the Drushkivka, Kramatorsk, and Sloviansk agglomeration. If the enemy manages to take the city, it will be even harder to stop the Russians. Stanislav Kukharchuk, Vyacheslav Romodan, Ihor Shepot Podrubici, Inter-Television Channel Marathon, United News.
The Zaporizhia direction is groaning right now under the onslaught of the Russians. Our steel warriors are breaking through. The clearing operation is in full swing. Every combat sortie means fewer occupier forces, Ukrainian defenders are walking confidently, leaving the enemy no chance to advance. The Russians are becoming even more insidious. What traps are they setting, and how do our defenders overcome all obstacles? We'll tell you about this in just a moment.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Body armor, helmet, a working charge radio, and a backpack. This is how the soldiers of the 65th Brigade prepare to head to the front line. The warriors of the Great Meadow are holding the defense in the Zaporizhia direction. Here, the enemy constantly assaults and shells the positions.
It's tough. There's a lot of activity from FPV drones, Mavics, specifically theirs. Mortar shelling.
A serviceman with the call sign Style is also preparing for a trip to the Zero Line. A father of two, he has been defending Ukraine since the days of the ATO. Now he is an infantryman.
The infantry is most crucial. It's like the backbone, you could say, of the army.
Before heading into battle, the soldiers are focused and not very talkative.
Only thoughts. We have to do it. This is our job. We're all here for Ukraine. We're fighting. In civilian life, I worked as a loader and a driver. It happened that in 2022, I had to go and defend my homeland. Since 2022, I've been in the armed forces of Ukraine.
The fighter with the call sign Mir returned to the unit just a few months ago after being wounded. Last fall, he was attacked by a drone on his way to the positions, and recently an enemy UAV struck the vehicle in which Style was riding with his comrades. Small fragments from the shattered glass got caught in the gear.
I was taking the guys to the position, and an FPV drone caught up with us.
Was that from the car?
From the car, yes. Well, and somewhere around here, you can see it got stuck in the optics. The windshield and two windows were blown out, but the guys managed to fix the car themselves.
The enemy is constantly hunting from the sky. Because of this, getting to the positions becomes much more difficult. The fighters don't take any extra things because they have to carry everything themselves. In Mir's backpack are personal belongings, a charger, a flashlight, and cigarettes. As for food, there are instant soups and a few sweets.
I'm getting ready to go to the position. I take as much food as possible, as much water as possible. You never know how long you'll have to stay there. I'm relieving a comrade who's been at the position a bit longer.
In complete darkness, the soldiers load things into the vehicle. The rest of what might be needed on the front line will be delivered by drones.
We try to deliver things using what I call basins and little cockroaches. That's precisely how we drop off the water. And cigarettes, well, basically everything minimal, just enough so the guys can hold out and keep doing their duty.
A soldier with the call sign Spider will be taking the fighters out to the front. He says every such trip is a test of luck since the road is targeted by the enemy.
You have to drive fast, stay alert, and watch under the wheels, everything, because they also drop petals. And well,
they might have a surprise in store for us.
It's hard to predict how long the fighters will stay at the front line. Sometimes they have to hold the defense for several months. Before leaving, they don't say goodbye because they're always waiting for their comrades to return. All the hugs, handshakes, and calls to their loved ones happen only after completing their combat missions and leaving their positions. Inna Hohoi, Ihor Vorobi, Podrobici, Inter Television Channel, United News Marathon.
The Russians are done for, yet they're still trying to revive their strategic aviation. The Russian military-industrial complex is scrambling like it's in a fever. Factories, plans, promises, all of it is falling apart at the seams. Sanctions are pressing, there's a shortage of specialists, and the results are zero. And now there's a new hope, the aircraft factory in Kazan. Will it save the situation, especially after the web struck them so precisely? The details are in the report.
Strategic aviation is Putin's headache, and it has been for a long time. The Russians are constantly trying to scare the West with their nuclear triad, but one of its elements has always been lacking. Strategic bombers have long exhausted themselves, and Russia should have done something about it 20 years ago.
They wanted to solve this problem with the so-called Advanced Aviation Complex Messenger, and Tupolev Design Bureau began work on this back in 2007. Then in the year 2009, the significant contract with the Ministry of Defense was successfully renewed for extensive research and development work on the ongoing development project.
But during this development, problems arose that Russia was unable to solve. The project was gathering dust in storage. Work was progressing slowly. A helping hand was extended by the Ukrainian Security Service, SBU, which destroyed a third of Russia's strategic aviation.
This is how the Balaya airfield looks now, pretty impressive. Strategic enemy aviation.
Operation Web likely accelerated the decision-making process regarding the messenger. After all, there's not much left to scare the West with anymore. As a result, Russia began actively searching for a solution to the problem. The first step was the expansion of the Kazan aviation plant, the only facility where strategic bombers are produced. The expansion is on a global scale. According to satellite images, the largest of the new hangars is the size of 3 football fields, and nearly 1 trillion rubles have been allocated for this.
Russia is capable of expanding its production facilities, but even with and the budget, there is supposedly 1 billion euros. For 1 billion, various equipment was purchased from the Chinese machines and so on and so forth. But if it were necessary to spend 3 billion, the Russians would invest 3 billion, even 5 billion. But they are unable to put them to use. They can't find the money to buy something bigger, because anything more would simply not be intended for the purposes set out in this program for the advanced long-range aviation complex Poslanik.
Thus, we return to the Poslanik gathering dust in the warehouse. It is likely that this is the very model the Russians plan to produce at the expanded plant. But for now, it looks more like wishful thinking.
There are some optimistic Russian experts who say that this Poslanik will appear in the 30s by 2030. According to the plans, the first flights are actually scheduled for 2027 or 2028. But considering that it's already 2025, and there were reports that the first flight was supposed to happen this year, that first takeoff keeps getting postponed again and again. But judging by the current state of affairs, nothing will actually take off there before 2030.
At the very least, the Russians still haven't managed to make a proper engine. There is one engine which is currently being used to modernize the Tuesday 160 into the Tuesday 160 M2, but this modernization has been going on for a long time and is progressing so slowly that the Poslanik will have to wait a very long time for its engine. After all, besides the new old bomber, the Russians still want to finish modernizing their Tuesday 160S. This will also be handled at the Kazan aviation plant, because right now for the Russians, modernizing the Tuesday 160S is a more realistic option for maintaining their strategic aviation.
There's no engine and there's no plane. There are problems with the planes and there are problems with the engines. So building the airframe is, let's say, just the first step in the process of creating, or rather reviving, some kind of aviation industry. But aside from being a real estate asset that can absorb a decent amount of money, for now there simply isn't, let's say, a technological base behind it that could fill these airframes and lead to the serious production of aviation equipment for strategic aviation.
So for now, we're just waiting to see when the amount allocated for expanding the plant will increase from 1 billion euros to several billion. After all, constructing the factory buildings is not a quick process, whereas villas are built much faster, which definitely pleases Ukrainians. For now, the Russians are claiming that the work will be completed and the plant expanded by the end of 2026. But who knows? By the way, drones have already paid a visit to the Kazan aircraft plant.
It was all leading up to this. The Baltic countries are on alert, preparing for war, urgently mining their borders. Full combat readiness. Finland, on edge, is trying to protect itself from a possible Russian attack.
Putin just smiles slyly. Will NATO manage to prevent a new phase of Russian aggression? We'll tell you in a moment. From the trunk of his car, Finnish Army reservist Jan launches a small reconnaissance drone. From this training ground, it's only 16 kilometers to the Russian border. According to the latest data, the aggressor has begun to reactivate Soviet military bases near Finland, is building new warehouses, and clearing out old garrisons.
We are actually so close that it really makes you think.
And what if they decide to come across this side of the border, just as they did in Ukraine without warning, or just as they came here in 1939? During World War II, Finland had to cede 10% of its territory to Russia. But before the next invasion, the country wants to be better prepared. On the border with Russia, they are building 4-meter-high fences, installing motion sensors and surveillance cameras. They also plan to lay landmines. However, first they need to withdraw from convention banning anti-personnel mines. Finland was one of the first to join it back in 1997. Anti-personnel mines have certain military utility, like any weapon, but the humanitarian impact of their use far outweighs that benefit. The vast majority of people who are killed or injured by anti-personnel mines are civilians. About a third of them are children, and that is why this weapon is unacceptable in the eyes of the 164 countries that have joined the international ban on anti-personnel mines. But 30 years ago, countries did not perceive the threat of invasion, so they were guided by humanitarian principles. Today, the security situation is completely different. Russia is and will remain a threat to all of Europe. Finland and Europe must consider all measures to strengthen our deterrence and defense capabilities, both individually and within NATO. Thanks to these decisions, we will ensure Finland's proper state of defense for many years to come. Returning to banned weapons is not an easy decision, but it is a considered one, the government assures. After all, Russia's war in Ukraine has shown that mass infantry assaults are one of the enemy's main methods of conducting combat operations. This is what we have learned from the war in Ukraine, what we have discovered through the Ukrainian armed forces and through our intelligence. We have seen how Russia operates. The unanimous opinion is that the return of anti-personnel mines will enhance Finland's defense capability. They are a cost-effective weapon for defense against invaders and are suitable for our terrain. Finland is in the final stage of withdrawing from the convention. The parliament has already voted for it. Poland is at a similar stage. The Sejm has already supported the withdrawal from the international treaty. Now it is up to the Senate. This is a very strong political statement. It shows how determined we are to defend our homeland and cooperate with our allies. After approval by the country's parliaments, all that remains is to formally notify the UN Secretary General in writing. The Baltic countries have already done this in recent days. Even if we hear from the highest Russian leadership that they do not intend to attack NATO, we also heard a few years ago that they would not attack Ukraine. So we treat such statements with a certain degree of skepticism. NATO's eastern flank is closest to Russia, so it is preparing for the worst. The first line of defense should be a new Iron Curtain, not a metaphorical one, but made of millions of munitions. However, they will only be able to directly mine the country's territory 6 months after notifying the UN. This is the so-called transitional period. However, during these 6 months, the countries will not be sitting idly by. They will be able to purchase mines, resume their production, plan defenses, train military personnel, and prepare infrastructure. And here, we're not talking about outdated Soviet mines, but about modern ones equipped with self-destruct systems and safe removal mechanisms. Svitlana Chernetska, Yuri Romaniuk. Details from the British Bureau of Inter-Television channel, Marathon, United News. That's all from Taiwan for now. I was your host, Darina Hutsakalo. Even more intense news from the front in our next broadcast. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon!